Hello and welcome to CX Today. My name is Charlie and today I'm delighted to be joined by Jono Luk, Vice President of Product Management at Webex. Jono, thank you very much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you, Charlie, and thank you for having me in the conversation.
Excellent. Well, I really enjoyed our conversation last time, and this time I'm very excited to talk to you about how brands can build a proactive customer service strategy. And I think maybe the best place to begin this conversation would be simply by asking you, why should businesses put their time and effort into building such a proactive strategy?
Yeah, and this is, I'm going to try to keep it succinct for the conversation. The reality is customers expect it. I think that's what it comes down to, right? We're no longer in an era of, well, reactive is okay. I'll call you when I need something. People are just on the go all the time. And so being proactive and getting ahead of a high stress or a time sensitive situation truly is critical to business. And then the other part, when we talk about intelligent, you know me. You know what I've bought from you if I'm a patient in healthcare, all of those. And so you should, as an organization, bring that to bear when you're interacting with me, right? So that expectation is simply there now. It's there in our daily lives as consumers. Certainly there when I work with, again, healthcare, retail, even my own employer, right? You know what my PTO balance is left. So in all those situations, it's become, I think, just an expectation and therefore critical.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, throughout many different industries, that we are consumers of ourselves. Proactive notifications on our phone now is just, it's almost an assumption
Yeah.
that we have. But obviously, it's, from a consumer's perspective, it might look quite a simple thing. From a contact center's point of view, there's maybe more to it. So I think maybe the next best question to put to you is kind of, what are some of the key features of an effective intelligent, proactive customer service strategy?
Yeah, I probably put three out there. The first is you have to know your customer, right? As a business or organization, I need to know Charlie versus Jono to start. That could be, what have you bought from me before? Or what is the past history you have, right, with this organization so that I can best plan that outreach, that proactive communication. So part one is know thy customer. The second is it's actually about the interaction itself with the customer. So I always use this example. My mom will use every excuse she can to walk into a retail store. I'll use every excuse I can to not, right? I'll try to find the chat, the anything else. And so there's a preference. There's a preference by your customer on how they want to interact with you. And so part of that intelligent and proactive, well, if you know from the past, lean on it, right? Reach out to Charlie at the right time with the right things, the way that Charlie wants to be communicated with. That's the second. So all of those tools, the channels, as we often call them, right, within the context of contact center that's necessary there. And the third is the best possible experience during that interaction. Right. So there's actually two parts of this. So I said three. So this is 3.1 and 3.2. 3.1 is the experience, the quality of this interaction itself. So I'll give an example of a voice or an audio communication. If I can't hear you, people work from home. Agents work from home now. If all I hear is your dog barking in the car in the background or something, I, as a customer, I'm like, wait, you called me. You contacted me, right? And I can't understand. So there's an experience angle, which leads to customer satisfaction or dissatisfaction. And the other element is, as we're having this conversation, it's not enough for the agent just to know that Jono bought product X on, June 1st, so follow up on June 3rd, but more real time as well. Knowing Jono, what is the best way to handle his inquiry, his concerns, right? And that's an intelligence there, a little different than perhaps some of the other intelligence that we often think about, but is critical to facilitating the best possible outcome. Because, Charlie, a happy customer is a retained customer. A retained customer means higher lifetime value, right? And that's ultimately what organizations need. And you can apply that equally, again, to healthcare, retail, financial services, all of these sectors.
Yeah, I think that's a really great kind of three or four considerations.
Three and a half. So we'll call it three and a
Yeah.
half. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, lots of really excellent advice within that response there. And then I think maybe the next part of this conversation should be around, how can a service operation deliver that experience almost. So Can you maybe share some of the best practices that you've seen for delivering such a proactive strategy?
Yeah, I mean, though, maybe I'll kind of come at this from the two sides of a proactive communication. First, from within the organization, and then from the customer, consumer, patient, the other side of this, right? So it's the two-way window. I think from an internal angle, the most important thing is that you put the right things at the fingertips of the agent. And healthcare is a really great example I often lean on, which people don't always think of as CX per se, but it is. Patient care delivery is perhaps one of the most critical elements of or parts of communication with a customer. Right? The patient's the customer. The stakes are real in some cases. And so having the person that's initiating and facilitating that communication, a nurse practitioner or someone else, have all the details, that's one thing. But giving them tools, and this is where the intelligence, where the AI and those other things come in, helping them determine the best next step in real time, that's even more powerful. Me putting 15 data points about Jono, the patient, in front of the nurse, they have to go and understand and consume and guess. If we can make that smarter and simpler, that means that the outcome is going to be better, right? So there is a whole set of tools, and that's again where AI comes in. Not just the generative AI conversation has been it's going gangbusters out there, right? We talk about all the different things that have happened in the last 6 months, but there's other elements as well. Again, knowing that Jono he's receiving the message being told well or not. Something we used to call sentiment, right? Was sort of sentiment is up and down. That also helps me to modulate how I'm communicating with you. So those are the kinds of things that I need as the person within the organization or business that did the proactive. Flip side, from a customer angle, ultimately, again, communicate with me where and when I prefer.
Maybe now we've kind of gone over those key points. It'll be really great to ask you, we know the importance of consistently testing and optimizing customer experiences. How can a brand measure how effective its proactive strategy is and consistently improve upon it?
Absolutely. I think this is where I want to introduce my layer cake analogy for ways to think about this. In the past, we've looked at metrics that are, for example, how long was that interaction? Back in the day of purely just call center, that was average handle time, right? Things like that suggest the efficiency of the interaction. And then, of course, there's the end state, the wrap up. Did Charlie get what he needed? And those two were kind of, I'll call it the level zero, because did we achieve the desired outcome? The thing that we are now seeing is customers and consumers have choice. I can go somewhere else. And so not only do I need to have my level zero basics, I achieve the outcome. Did it feel good? Did I like the interaction I just had? I'm a consumer. In fact, I'm about to go on a flight and rent a car this evening. I switched rental car companies because the experience of trying to change my reservation was so painful with vendor one that I'm like, but vendor two, again, my preference, digital, this thing here, right? It was easy. It was over a chat in their mobile app. And so that's my level one now, right? It's how did it feel? Customer satisfaction is a nebulous word, but all of those understandings and metrics of how the customer interpreted that's key, because the example I gave you, a low customer satisfaction led to customer churn, me in this case, right? I went somewhere else. That's my second level of this layer cake of metrics and understanding. And then ultimately the third is it's the business outcome. It is, did Jono, the consumer, do more, right? If we engaged him in this way proactively over this channel for this purpose, did we achieve our business desired outcome, right? Layer 2 and 3 sometimes may come at odds. Don't sell me more. Don't upsell me. I don't want that offer. But it's true, at the end of the day, a business and organization is trying to maximize its customer retention and lifetime value, right? So I would say you layer these three in that order, right? And think about all of those. Now you have a picture to start making some decisions upon. And to your point, continually optimize. You got to A/B test as well. You got to think about, this was a hypothesis. Did it work? And not all populations are the same. You and I might respond very differently to hey, here's a 50% off opportunity to acquire an upsell to the next version of something, right? So those are the things I would say really factor into how an organization should think about the success, right, and the optimization as they go forward.
Yeah, I think I might use that layer cake analogy myself.
You're
So
welcome to. You're welcome to.
excuse me if you see that popping up on a CX day in the future. But I think again some really good advice there, and I kind of love the car rental analogy. Is I have been stuck in an airport less than a month ago, over an hour on the phone trying to change the main driver of my reservation. So yeah, I could. Yeah, I could. I yeah, I understood where you were coming from,
Right.
definitely on that one. And I think maybe my final question to you would be, can you give me? You said the second company was much better at this, but maybe can you give me another example, real life example of an organization that has maybe implemented such a proactive communication strategy and secured really great outcomes by doing so?
Sorry, did you want me to name a company or just give an example of what they did and how they did?
Yeah, you don't have to name a company. Just yeah, if you say a healthcare organization or something,
Yeah,
I'll cut this little bit out. It's cool.
yeah. No, no, absolutely. So actually, for me, it's my bank. So another example of where the nature of financial services can be extremely stressful, right? Sometimes the communication is insufficient funds, a fraudulent charge, these types of things. For example, I was traveling recently. I had the fortune of meeting with a lot of our partners over the last several weeks, and when I'm traveling, if I swipe my credit card and they think it's fraudulent, there's two paths forward. Hey, Jono, did you mean to blah, 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 blah? Press one for allow it through, press two for not. The other one is an email that takes 35 minutes. So if we want to talk about proactive communication and the urgency, I used healthcare before, but this is where a bank can be truly, in some cases, a life or death type of thing. I need this now. Right. And so I offer to you that as an example where it can be a just in time, high stress situation where I don't know. Is my email coming that says, was this fraudulent? No, that SMS message at the exact point of transaction saying, was this you? Yes. Low stress, done. And so that's another one where I think, we're going to see more and more. And back to maybe the theme of this as well is I will choose a vendor based off of my perception of them as a brand. That's sometimes not a great word, but it is. You as an organization create people's opinion of you through how they interact with you. So be it the car rental or be it the bank, and not every brand is for everyone. I offer my mom and myself as an example. We'll choose two different companies. That's okay. But it has to be part of the organization's thinking, right? How you interact will yield an opinion by consumers, and then they will self-select.
Yeah, I think yeah, again, lots of really good stuff, and I love the example. Like my bank too. If things my interaction might be fraudulent, I can quickly just log onto the app and just approve the transaction. It's a very simple process. Definitely wouldn't be happy with a 35-minute email interaction. But I did say that was my final question previously. I'm going to ask you one more, just
Go
because
for it.
another one's kind of sprung to my mind there. You mentioned kind of, you might choose your vendor based on this. A lot of businesses might now be evaluating their vendors to create such a strategy. Why do you think they should consider Webex?
Yeah, so I think there's two things when businesses are considering vendors to support them in their delivery, right, of these. The first is, actually, I was just on a call this morning with a customer of ours. A change is hard. As an organization and business, change is hard. There is training or retraining costs, right? And what you want to choose is you want to choose a vendor that's going to let you incrementally light new things up so that it isn't an overnight cold cutover, right? And you also want a vendor that's going to provide you all of this, ideally in one complete package. And this is not often the most exciting part of all this, but customer data, there's security, compliance, governance. Think about those things. And so back to the point of you as a business deciding how I should communicate, that's preference because the customer wants to communicate away. You should think about which vendor can offer you all of that in as few islands as possible, right? As contained, because now you have one copy of data versus three. And there's real risk around duplicating and triplicating, right? And then that vendor of your partner should allow you to incrementally light these things up that map to your business goals, back to your KPI question, right? Of metrics for success. I think it's a partner. That vendor is your partner going through this. And so they need to support you in your transition relative to the brand that you want to create.
Excellent. Well, I think that's a really good kind of message for us to end this conversation today, Jono. But it's always a pleasure speaking to you. Learn so much. So yeah, thank you very much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Charlie.
Excellent. And also thank you to everybody for watching. Bye for now.